So now we are ready to mix up floor leveler. That is needed if your floor is not 100%, if your concrete floor is not 100% even. To take out any of the unevenness, we actually mix up a bit of floor leveler. We'll show you how to do that now. So now what we do is we mix up floor leveler. Usually use floor leveler if the floor is nearly straight. If the floor is really bad, we would use Durabad, or if it is an in-ground installation. And now we mix it up, and we mix it up so it's nice and runny. Now that we mixed up the floor leveler to a nice consistency, we'll spread that out inside the area of where the tub was. So it doesn't need much because this floor is pretty even. So I'll put a little bit more here because that's the area where the weighbridge is. And then just a nice thin area all the way around it. This will be enough. Now what we do is we'll take the tubs, we lay the tub on top of it, and we swim the whole tub into it. We want to swim it in until we can hear the concrete crunching underneath. Then we know it is all in. So go a little bit more, guys.
That's it.
Okay. And then we'll start putting the Dynabolt holes in. These are the Dynabolts that we use. There's a trick to the Dynabolts. Make sure that the head is screwed out about a third and pull this all the way back, then it goes much easier into the hole. Find your Dynabolt holes, drop it in and hammer it in. Careful not to obviously hit the sensor. And hammer it in till it's all the way in. Very good. Another one in here. So, yeah. So you can see how it takes the head of the Dynabolt a bit back, drop it in, and then hammer it in. And you do the same to all the Dynabolt holes that you already got drilled. And then the tub is secured. From here on in, not much can happen anymore. So now we start tightening the Dynabolt holes. The Dynabolts, not all the way, just a little bit to nip it. We use, as I said, a special little hammer device. So it goes over the Dynabolt hole and just we nip it up a little bit. And we do that to all the Dynabolt that we just put in. The next thing we want to do is we want to secure the cable so nothing can happen to the ends of it. So now we'll take the ends off. We run this cable down the middle. There's a little opening in underneath the weighbridge. You can push this cable through. And then this end goes into the output part of your junction box. Nice and careful when you put these cables in. You will feel there's a little notch, and when the notch is in, you can tighten it. But please be careful on these because they're very sensitive. Yeah. On the left tub, the cable will run through the outside and comes from the outside into the output part. Again, very careful plugging these in. There's a little notch, it goes in, but be careful not to force it. And then tighten them, please. We can also connect now the brake sensors up into the junction box again, so nothing can happen to the end. Yeah. On the right-hand tub, which we call the alignment tub, the cables will run straight through the middle of the tub. On the left-hand side, the cables will run through the outside. Now that the front tubs are secured, all the Dynabolts are in it, we are waiting for the floor leveler to fully dry. We can now attach the rear section if you have chosen a long track machine. If you have a short track machine, basically you are now ready to go to the next step. But for the long tracks, we now bolt the rears to the front. And this is where they bolt through. So there is two sections here, they bolt straight into these ends here, so please bring it forward. And we have the M12 by 25 mil bolts, and they just bolt straight onto it. Again, if your floor is totally straight, you might not need any floor leveler. If the floor is uneven, I would also put floor leveler underneath this segment. So now we are ready to drill the Dynabolt holes for the rear tap sections. There is 3 on this end, 1 in the middle for the brake sensor itself, 1 on each end, 1 in the middle and 1 on this end over there. So what we want to do now is make sure that underneath, for instance in here, that there is no leftover floor leveler that can interfere with it. So everywhere where it is sort of oozing out, we try to retract that part of it. Okay, so now we're finished with step 3. This is basically placing the taps on the ground. We have the floor leveler in, we have all the Dynabolts bolted in. Obviously it's not going to go anywhere now. So this is what we call step 3 is now finished. So step 4 will be to put the surround bolts and the surround ramps onto the taps.